Space Commission Board of Directors to order. Before we begin, ask anyone in the room to please silence your device. Let me make sure I is here for that. Okay, Norman, would you please call roll?
Yes, ma'am. Chair Gwen Griffin,
Here.
Vice Chair Kathy Leaders,
Here.
Secretary Kirk Shireman,
Here.
Dr. Nancy Curry Gregg,
Here.
Bessie Doubleby,
Here.
Brad Morrison,
Here.
John Shannon,
Here.
Dr. Heather Wilson.
Here.
Evan Loomis. Absent. Ma'am, we have a call.
Thank you. Hey, would you mind closing the box of this recording so I can see?
Yep, apologies.
No problem. Thank you very much. Gosh, it's hard to believe it's only been a couple weeks since our last meeting here. It's been brisk. Time has been going by fast. Our last meeting, for those that weren't here, we had a great presentation from Caroline Mays from TxDOT as they help us look into what the space industry needs in terms of infrastructure for roads and mobility as we continue to grow. So that was really insightful for me. And then we also heard from the DoD's Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, which is, I didn't realize the impact they've had over the last decade. I thought it was a little bit newer than that. So very, very helpful and informative. And I hope that helps some of our companies and organizations and institutions in the room to know what others are doing. So last week was a crazy busy week. It was the 40th Annual Space Symposium in Colorado Springs, which for those of you that participate in symposium, it's not just a conference. It is real meetings, real dialogue, and progress as we move as a nation and as a society. I think there was 18 heads of space agencies from 18 countries there this year. So just a terrific gathering. And for those that haven't been there, it's about 11,000 people. This was the 40th anniversary, and Texas had a big, big presence. Some industry partners came together and put on a luncheon on Wednesday at the Broadmoor, celebrating the Texas Space Commission and TARSEC. And we had the privilege of having Secretary of State Jane Nelson with us. And let me just say, she is a bundle of energy, incredibly articulate, and that Texas-friendly attitude and approach was the hit. I know a few of my fellow board members were there, and I think folks left, and we were kind of the talk of the next few days at Space Symposium in terms of what Texas is doing to help enable the growing space economy, as well as that we have the most energetic, awesome Secretary of State that we could ever ask for. So a great showing. We did have a number of meetings and very, very productive. Thanks to several board members that were there in their day job capacity, like I was, going each year for about the last 15 years. But thank you for those of you that could make the time to come to the luncheon hosted by industry. And we renamed that luncheon, or the luncheon was named Pioneering Space in the Lone Star State. So it seems like appropriate. With that, we also had a chance to visit with I'll just end with Center Director, now Acting Associate Administrator of NASA, Vanessa White, and kind of getting an update on what they do know. Right now, obviously, NASA is waiting for an administrator to be named, and that continues on. But things are going well all around. So with that, I would like to consider approval of the minutes from our meeting on March 31st. Directors, you have that in tab 1 of your board book. And do those notes accurately reflect what we had in our meeting? What we talked about in our meeting?
They do, and I would move we accept the minutes as written.
Okay.
I can second.
Great. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Kathy. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
I think it was was that Sassy that?
It was Sassy.
Sorry.
Aye, yeah.
I'm okay being, replaced with Kathy.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I'd like to turn the floor over to Norman, our Executive Director, for his update.
Thank you very much. I have two comments to share with the team here. First off, this morning, Dr. Bonning laid out House Bill 5246. This is the cleanup bill, or 2.0, as Secretary Nelson referred to it last week at symposium regarding the statute authorizing the Texas Space Commission and TARSEC's activities. In addition to myself being available for questions, there were two others that testified. Starlab and Firefly each had a representative there to testify in favor of the legislation as introduced. That bill is left pending, and so further committee action is awaiting the chairman's discretion. The other thing to share, while we were eating lunch before coming here for this meeting, Kathy, John, and Gwen, the Texas Senate confirmed y'all's appointments today. So congratulations on that. I know John was here the day of our last board meeting to appear before that committee hearing. So
Yeah, thanks for that, John.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
with that, Newman, those are the top two items to share with the group. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Yep.
With that, I'd like to give the floor to TARSEC Vice Chair Brian Friedman, who I know is with us. There he is. Hey, Brian, over to you for a report.
Good afternoon. It's great to see everybody. Stephanie, our chair, Stephanie Murphy, sends her regards. She's actually at a conference we're hosting today in Fort Worth. We're expecting over 200 folks at that conference, and so looking forward to gathering a lot of great information. Also wanted to flag that we are looking at doing another conference or workshop in South Texas and the Brownsville region sometime in the second half of May. We're still working the logistics and identifying a location, but that is one of the things we're planning. I wanted to flag a couple of things related to the TARSEC website. First of all, we're planning right now. It has a placeholder. We're planning to launch and have the website live by the end of the week. That website will be tarsec.space. And then as part of that, we're working on what will be another phase of it that will be live by May 1st, and that's the membership component of that website. And then we're also working on the heat map that I know we've spoken about a number of times. We've been pulling together the requirements of what we're looking for and looking to have on that heat map, and then also taking a look at some of the vendors that can work with us on making sure that it hits the mark for what we're looking for. Also wanted to flag that Matt Ondler is leading a team, or TARSEC subcommittee, to develop a process for recommendations to the Space Commission regarding areas of priority and for considerations of funding. These would be more broad and thematic. I know we've met with everyone on the Space Commission through their subcommittees to talk about that framework, and so more to come on that. Last item I have is just to add my voice to the congratulations on a great presence by the state of Texas National Space Symposium. The Pioneering Space and the Lone Star State Luncheon was fantastic. And so, Chair Griffin, thank you for your leadership, Norman, for your support, and everything that went into making that event such a success on the world stage. That's all from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Directors, any questions for Brian or for TARSEC? Okay, super. And do we have, I hate to call him Hippie here because we haven't met formally, but we have Colonel Wolf with us,
Kate's trying to get him in.
working on it. Okay.
If you want, you can just move on to 7 unless it's ready to go quicker.
It's not quite ready.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and move along.
This one.
All right, I'd like to move on to item 7 for today's meeting, and we'll come back to Colonel Wolf with the U.S. Space Force Association as a presenter today. So members, next up, consideration of additional CERF applications. Any questions from directors before we begin?
I have one note.
Sir.
Make sure that these votes are compliant with the Open Meetings Act. For some reason, we're limited to 7 people on screen and not sure why. That includes this room needs to be on screen so that they need to be able to see y'all. And so, members, one of y'all will have to be off screen while we take the vote. And then we're gonna have to move somebody off screen and move you onto the screen. Does that make sense? Okay. Basically, we're gonna have to move.
Oh, we do that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that these votes, because you have to be able to see and hear everybody in the vote,
So
so.
currently, we're not, the room isn't on there.
Right.
So
That's the issue.
you'll need to move somebody off the screen and move, and go ahead and put this room on the screen right now. And Dr. Curry, Greg, we moved you off screen, so withhold your vote until you're on screen, and somebody else gets moved off. I'm sorry, but we didn't realize this limitation until right now.
Got it.
So relevant details are in your board book in tab 3, and in accordance with the Texas Space Commission rules, if a board member has a conflict of interest as described in those rules, the board member will disclose that conflict of interest in this open meeting as the matter arises and recuse him or herself from participating in review, discussion, deliberation, and voting on that matter. Board members have already disclosed their written notice as required by the rules, and they have not accessed information regarding the applications in which they are conflicted. With that, first up, we have application 250066B from Aegis Aerospace Incorporated. For the record, I understand that no conflicts have been identified on this application. Do any board members have a conflict on this application? You'll unmute your mic. None, and then over to Nancy. Nothing there. Okay.
She just moved off for just the votes to make her part. She
Okay.
is on
Okay.
here.
All right, I'm learning, guys. So we want to make sure we have the right documentation here. So no conflicts of interest on the Aegis Aerospace application. A grant application for development cost. This project will fund the design and build of an advanced materials manufacturing platform, or AMMP, an automated facility to enable and demonstrate in-space manufacturing of high value products that cannot be replicated on Earth. The platform seeks to enable a pathway for manufacturing in zero gravity by third-party space and research companies to utilize. Members, are there any questions or discussion on application 25006P? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the award regarding application 25066B in the amount of up to $10 million for development costs conditioned on the applicant's successful completion of the commission's administrative background assessments and acceptance of grant agreement terms?
I so
So
move.
moved.
Kathy, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving application 25006B, say aye.
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 Nancy,
Aye.
any opposed? All right, motion carries. Oh, I said aye, I believe, but just in case I didn't, say aye again. All right, next we have application 250144B from Icon Technology, Inc. For the record, I understand that Evan Loomis has disclosed a conflict of this on this application. Do any board members have a conflict of interest on this application that are on the line? Application 250144B is a grant application from Icon Technology, Inc. for construction and equipment costs. This project will fund the renovation of a dedicated facility for the production of lunar regolith simulants. This capacity will enable manufacturing capabilities to develop lunar surface technologies, as well as produce mass quantity of simulant that can be available for other users. Members, is there any discussion on this application? Do I have a motion to approve the award regarding application 250144B in the amount of $694,350 for construction of equipment costs conditioned on the applicant's successful completion of the commission's administrative background assessments and acceptance of grant agreement terms.
So moved.
Thank you, Kurt. And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nancy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Johnson.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, motion carries. All right, application 3. Now we have application 250167B from Interland Corporation. For the record, I understand that Dr. Nancy Curry Gregg, Evan Loomis, and Kirk Shireman have disclosed a conflict on this application. Do any other board members have a conflict of interest on this application? Okay. Application 250167B is a grant, is from Interland Corporation for equipment and development costs. This project will fund equipment and development costs for a lunar Regulus Simulant Center of Excellence at the Texas A&M Space Institute, adjacent NASA JSC. The project will establish lab scale production and testing, including specialized equipment for Regulus implantation, geotechnical analysis, and scaled manufacturing. Members, is there any question on application 250167B? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the award regarding application 250167B in the amount of up to $4.84 million for construction equipment and development costs, conditioned on the applicant's successful completion of the commission's administrative background assessments and acceptance of grant agreement terms?
So moved.
Thank you, John. And may I have a second?
Second.
I'm taking Sassy on that one. There we go. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? And over to Kirk.
Yeah, I abstained from this one. Thank you for asking me.
Okay, motion carries. I'm tongue-tied today.
Yeah, couple more.
I got you. So application 4. Next, we have application 250071B from Cooler Technology Group Incorporated. For the record, I understand no conflicts have been identified on this application. Do any board members have a conflict of interest on this application? Application 250071B is a grant application from Cooler Technology Group, Inc. for equipment costs and research and development costs. This project will fund the equipment costs and salaries to develop advanced technology that reduces battery heater power consumption by increasing performance in low temperature ranges. Members, is there any discussion on application 250071B? Right. Do I have a motion regarding application 250071B in the amount of up to $6,703,500 for construction equipment and development costs conditioned on the applicant's successful completion of the Commission's administrative background assessments and acceptance of grant agreement terms? May I have?
So moved.
Thank you, Brad. And a second? Thank you, Kirk. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, Nancy. All right, the motion carries.
I'm opposed on that one. You didn't ask, but I'm opposed.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Heather. All right. Let me think for just a minute. We still have a quorum. And we only have one missing, so we're, okay. So the motion will carry there, but thank you for that notification, Dr. Wilson. All right, application 5. Next, we have application 250213B from Venus Aerospace Corporation. For the record, I understand that Sassy Doubleby and Evan Loomis have disclosed a conflict on this application. Do any other board members have a conflict of interest on this application? Okay, application 250213B is a grant application from Venus Aerospace Corporation for construction equipment and development costs. This project will fund construction equipment and development costs of a rocket engine test facility to be located at the Houston Spaceport at Ellington Field. The facility will provide testing capabilities for other aerospace companies and universities. Members, is there any discussion on application 250213B? Do I have a motion to approve the award regarding application 250213B in the amount of up to $3.9 million for construction equipment and development costs, conditioned on the applicant's successful completion of the commission's administrative background assessment and acceptance of the grant agreement terms?
So moved.
Nancy. And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, so on to our next item. We will not go into a closed meeting today, a closed session today. So wondering if we have our special guest.
We are trying.
If you're talking about Bill Wolf, sorry.
Stand by,
I tried this before and it didn't work. I had sent him. We don't want him to be in a continue.
Okay. We'll allow him to talk.
Does he have slides? Yeah. Did you get them? Is it appropriate? So we could do a verbal. Give them.
No presentation. Yeah.
Okay. Could we do, just have him on audio? Love to see him, but take up everybody's time.
Well, sir, thank you. You're on speaker, in the room during the open meetings. We're having some technical difficulties getting you admitted into the, video feed. So, Chair Griffin asked to call you and, let you speak, this way.
Okay, you got it.
Is that good with you, sir?
Absolutely.
All right.
Very happy to speak to the board.
Thank you. Well, by way of introduction, I'm Gwen Griffin, Chair of the Texas Space Commission. We have 8 of our 9 board members on the line here today, and a number of folks listening in virtually, and a room filled with local folks here in Austin. So for the board and those in the audience, it's my pleasure to introduce retired Space Force Colonel William Hippie Wolf, call sign Hippie. I'll get that story later, I hope. Bill is founder, president, and CEO of the U.S. Space Force Association. And Bill, we'd love to hear more about your rapidly growing organization.
So much for the introduction, and thanks so much to the Texas Space Commission Board of Directors for allowing me to speak about the Space Force Association and what I would consider probably some of the most critical time in our history with regard to securing freedom of action in the space domain. So by way of background, as discussed, I spent 24 years as a space weapons officer in the U.S. Air Force. And as soon as I retired in 2018, I was strongly in support of establishing a Space Force. And so I created and founded the Space Force Association in October of 2019. Obviously, in December of that same year, President Trump then signed into law the United States Space Force. This is unique in that it's not a military service that was born out of demonstration of critical military capabilities in a battlefield. But instead, he saw foresight and realizing that if we don't control this critical domain, we are going to lose everything. And so we have, as discussed, we've rapidly grown in 5.5 years from a single individual starting this thing to over 3,000 individual members and 100 corporate members. And what's unique about us from other organizations specifically focused on space is that we are solely focused on the U.S. Space Force, its guardians, and their families. And what we've done is set up an infrastructure to allow for rapid growth within the organization via our chapters. And that's really what I want to talk about today is the phenomenal work that our Texas delegation of SFA has done. So sitting in the room with you today is Eric McManus, who has established SFA Texas as a large-scale chapter. And then he's also created several satellite organizations within the state. Headquartered in Midland, Texas, he's also established the Houston satellite and the Austin satellite, and we're soon going to have a Dallas satellite and I suspect a San Antonio satellite. So he's there in the room and can answer those questions for you specifically about those activities. Additionally, we have Matt Domo, who is the chairman of the board of directors of the Space Force Association. They're in the room with you as well. He is located in Austin, Texas. So in terms of Texas, SFA is very well represented. Not only that, of course, we've got our friends of SFA. And so when I talk about the companies that are there, obviously SpaceX, Intuitive Machines, Firefly Aerospace. So all of these are friends of SFA and very strong supporters. In terms of activities, one of our first volunteers, Eric Sunby, is from Bernie, Texas, and he helped us establish the Space Force Caucus in the House and the Senate. And that's important because we need as much support as we can get for a strong Space Force. And Representative Babin out of Texas is a co-chair of that caucus, and we've engaged with Representative Babin on a regular basis. What we were able to do in the last NDAA is pass the Legacy Guardian Act, which allows people like me to be recognized as legacy guardians of the U.S. Space Force. What this does is it grows our advocacy group and our advocacy representation to ensure that we have a strong Space Force. General Saltzman and I, the Chief of Space Operations, go way back. He and I, when he was Captain Saltzman, I was Lieutenant Wolf. And so we've been good friends ever since. I asked him when he got into the seat as the Chief of Space Operations, do you want a Space Force Association? Yes or no? Pretty easy question. And he said, absolutely, we need as much help as we can get. And so I said, sir, because you need the Space Force Association, or you want us to do what we're doing, what I'd like to recommend is the establishment of the Space Power Conference. And so the Space Power Conference is our annual gathering. You just went to the Space Symposium. It was great to see you, Brad and Norman, at the event. So thanks for this opportunity. And it was great also to meet Secretary Nelson. But we established the Space Power Conference in Orlando in conjunction with the Space Force's birthday to celebrate the birthday and also to bring the largest gathering of Guardians in the Galaxy together in Orlando to celebrate what the Space Force has done. And so that is continuing to grow. We've had 4,000 folks there last year, over 1,000 Guardians, and we expect to see that grow considerably. The vision is to bring space power to Texas. And so what I'd like to examine, and we saw this in the press recently, is President Trump is signing executive orders to bring capabilities to America. And so we've been in discussions with Space Force leadership recently about foreign military sales and the criticality of foreign military sales. And so SFA would like to examine the opportunity of establishing a space power center in and around Houston to focus on how those capabilities can be presented to the Space Force and continue to grow the economy. And this would be a unique immersive experience, bringing in visualization that allow folks to be immersed in the space domain, unlike any other time that we've seen in the past. One of the things I close on, or one of the comments is, right now, we are looking at a future $1.8 trillion space economy that the U.S., our partners and allies, should be in front of. If we're not careful, that entire economy is really residing on the military space power capability that is only being provided $30 billion annually for that budget. And so if the Space Force doesn't have the capabilities they need, that entire $1.8 trillion economy that supports not only the civil, but commercial sectors fails. And so we're very adamant about ensuring that the Space Force has the capabilities they need, partnering with states like yours, and ensuring that we all understand the criticality of space power. I'll pause there for questions or comments.
Directors, questions, comments?
Well, this is Heather Wilson, former Secretary of the Air Force. Can you talk to me a little bit about your relationship with the AFA and how that's going?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the question. And we have an MOA with AFA, and I reached out to the CEO of the Air Force Association as soon as we established, and I let them know that I was establishing it, just like they did, Secretary Wilson, with the Air Force when it separated from the Army back in the day. And they were very supportive. And so they said, yes, let's sign an MOA and talk about how we can support each other. The fact of the matter, as you would realize, is the Space Force, just like the Air Force, needs its own independent culture to be developed to ensure that we have the capabilities and the warfighting mentality that we need to ensure freedom of action in the space domain.
But the Air Force Association is now the Air and Space Force Association, right? Talk to me about that. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, but what's your relationship like?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a cordial relationship. And I just would ask the question, and this is a question I would ask even to AFA, is in 1946, were they thinking about, when they established the Air Force, what the Association of the U.S. Army didn't do is change their name to the Association of the U.S. Army and Air Forces, probably because they realized that the Air Force needed to establish and had established their own culture. And so I would even ask AFA if they were trying to, why they were trying to do what they were doing when they changed their name, which I don't understand why they did that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Bill, this is Gwen, and just can you talk a little bit more about the programs that you're offering as a membership organization to Space Force veterans and their families?
Yeah, you bet. So what we're doing right now with the Legacy Guardian specifically is we're recognizing anyone who is an operator in the Space Force to be recognized as a Legacy Guardian. In discussions with the Space Force leadership and the S1 shop and the personnel shop, is we want to do a review their DD 214s, take a look at who is there, and then make recommendations to the Space Force to acknowledge them. The CSO has brought up the idea of actually signing a membership card so that we can send out to them so they can be recognized as a Legacy Guardian. Additionally, just for other opportunities and everything that we're doing, we've got multiple programs. The biggest one probably is Global Space University. Right now, a lot of people don't really understand the intricacies of the Space Force and its relationship to the civil and commercial sectors. And so Global Space University is an opportunity for anyone to go through and get certified as a space professional, because you wouldn't ask a person who operates tanks for a living to describe what is necessary to gain and maintain air superiority, just like you wouldn't ask a pilot to talk about what is needed to gain and maintain space superiority. So we're very adamant to ensure that space professionals are actually being created. And so that's a way to, again, exponentially increase the opportunity for folks to talk about what the Space Force is doing. For families specifically, we realize the readiness challenge that exists for our guardians. And so we are partnering with nonprofits specifically to help with childcare costs, because we know that is a problem. And then Global Space University also helps with workforce development. We know we are experiencing a challenging workforce in the future with regard to the development and supporting this economy. And so we have created the Space Professional Society focused specifically on university students to connect those the university students with potential opportunities in the commercial sector. And we know that our commercial partners are looking for the future talent that they are going to need to support this emerging economy.
Very helpful. Thank you for a little more depth there on some of your programs. Any other questions for Bill? I can't call you hippie yet because we haven't met. So, but I know we all have a call sign. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, and look forward to learning more. Sounds like your growth is terrific, and appreciate your time today to brief us.
So thanks so much for the time.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right. So next up on the agenda is our conclusion. Is there any further business to attend to today? I do know that we'll be looking, Sylvia will be connecting with you on some dates for our next meeting. So expect to see an email from her with some options as we work to come together. Staff, anything, Norman?
Ma'am, thanks.
Okay. So hearing none, this meeting is adjourned at 2:36 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and have a great afternoon.